Hi, everyone. Welcome. Glad to have you here today in this special episode of, it's not really at the intersection, but I do want to welcome you. Glad to have you here. Just going to look real quick and see if people are coming in right now. Get my comments window up and see what's going on. There we go. Hi, Barb. Glad to have you here again today. I know tons of people watch this after the fact or listen to the audio version, but it always does my heart good just to see a few of the regulars coming in at this time of the day. I know it's not the most convenient time for most people, actually. But I'm just very glad, and people like Barb represent those who are also very regular to check in later, watch online and so forth, and really thrilled that I don't know, we're probably pushing 3,500 to 4,000 views and downloads since at the intersection. Now that's small potatoes compared to what a lot of people get on their podcast. But this is growing, and I'm glad for it because this podcast means a lot to me. But since I'm talking about that, and before I kind of give you this preview of a new course that's rolling out, let me first of all express my apologies for departing from the normal At the Intersection with Doug Newton podcast over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think I did mention last week that I'm on a real kind of straightforward focus on getting this new course out, and I'll share a little bit more about that today. But I do apologize because I know that there are people and groups that use these weekly podcasts as either discussion starters or the main content of their small groups, which of course surprised me. I haven't even started to try to market these podcasts at all. I'm just doing them to build up a library. But people are finding them, and they're finding them helpful and so forth. In fact, there's a group of about 10 guys now in their 20s who are getting together weekly and watching these. That group started out at 5 or 6, and the last I heard it was 9 or 10 or maybe more at this point. I want to say, first of all, to those guys and to others who may have a group like that, thank you so much for I don't know. I mean, it's such a compliment, and it honors me that you would be spending this kind of time on something that I'm developing like this, when there's so many other things out in the world for you to be devoting your time to. A lot of the guys in that group, by the way, were young fellas, most of them back in junior high and maybe even elementary school when I was pastoring their church. And to have them not kind of get worn out with me as the one talking all the time on Sundays and still being willing to listen to me talk really is such an honor. So thank you guys for that. I hope to talk to you all soon. I've got something in my mind about how to do that so that the rest of our listeners can hear how you're processing this information. Anyways, let me move on. But again, my apologies to those who may be counting on these being weekly. I hope to be able to get back to the normal At the Intersection podcasts by mid-December. I'm doing my best to get this course rolled out. Now, before I show you this preview, I want to let you know how this fits into an overall game plan that I have. And I say I, but again, like I said last week with Margie here beside me, this is us together, working on this together. She is so much of an inspiration to me and my support in many ways. And a lot of the things that I share are things that we have learned together, that we have talked about over the years and processed as we've worked with people now 45 years or more in ministry. And we've seen the kinds of things that people struggle with and the things they need and the things that the church needs and so forth. So this is the content that I deliver is really something that is ours together. But it fits into this context of the Fresh. You can see that up in the, here it is, up in the corner of the screen, the Fresh Impact Online School. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that next week. I really want you to understand the passion of our lives in this last, we hope and pray, for 20 more years of ministry service and impact. But I've looked at over the years, what it is that makes it so that many churches experience kind of less than what seems to be possible according to Scripture in their impact, their effectiveness, their fruitfulness, their joy in ministry, their fellowship, their koinonia in those churches. Why is that? And so I've been asking that question now for quite a few years. And the Fresh Impact School is really aligned with my three basic answers. It has something to do with things that we don't understand and practice in the area of prayer, so that our prayer lives are not as fruitful as they could be. It has something to do with our inability to really connect with God in His Word and to see the power of His Word at work in us and in the church. And this third element is an element of character development. So next week, I want to talk a little bit more detail, because I've never done that before on this podcast, so that you see the whole picture and why this is so important, and why the podcast really is just me creating a doorway into what I believe is a richer, more abundant way of life for individual Christians, but for the church as well. But anyways, I do want to get back to this course. I'm so excited. I've been excited for so long. It's getting harder and harder and harder to tolerate the delay in having it finished. And Margie has to deal with that a lot, as I expressed to her just kind of my angst over the fact that it's still not out and it's still not out. But it's called How Christ is Formed in God's People. And it's kind of an odd name, but I'm using it intentionally because it was used by the Apostle Paul in just one place in Galatians, where he talked about laboring until Christ is formed in his people, right? And so, because I could talk about making disciples as being the main thing, that would do a whole lot better with search engine optimization if I would just call it that. People who are looking for how to make disciples would find it a whole lot easier. But there's a sense in me about wanting to honor God's word and use His words, even if the search engines may not be quite as excited about that title. But I call it that because there's something about how Christ is formed. There is a missing ingredient in how Christ is formed. And it has to do with how we have tended to over-spiritualize the transformation process in individual Christians' lives. Not that it's not a very spiritual, divine work of God in us through His Holy Spirit, but there's a dimension that is forgotten or underappreciated and not emphasized, that has to do with what we do, our choices, our efforts, that have to do with character. So with that in mind, what I thought I would do today is just give you a quick little 5-minute snippet from the very first lesson in this course, so that you can kind of see how it rolls out, and that'll help you understand what I'm working on. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Well, welcome to video number 1 in this course. I'm glad to have you with me today. This video is called My Claim and My Cred. Now, most churches and Christian organizations have discipleship programs, simple ones or even very complex ones. And the goal is to teach people how to live, how to love, how to serve like Jesus. They use prayer, they use Bible study, they use counsel and ministry training in hopes of developing Christ-like disciples. And yet, for decades, it seems like we have been living through a pandemic of challenging problems and dysfunctions within our churches because of disciples not living and loving and serving like Jesus. The question is why? I mean, it's so frustrating and disappointing when we hear of another report about some pastor, even renowned ones who are found out for some extramarital affair or financial mismanagement or abusive behavior. And it's explosive when that happens. It rocks the whole church. In too many cases, people walk away from their faith in disillusionment. Plus, it damages the reputation of Christianity in the eyes of an already skeptical culture. For the first time after years of pastoring, my wife and I, when we weren't actually pastoring a church, we had kind of stepped into a new, not retirement, but kind of a new writing and speaking role. We were looking for a church to attend for just a brief period of time. So we visited our top church on the list. It was great. It was a good service. And at the end of the service, though, 2 elders took the stage to announce to the congregation that their senior pastor, who oversaw 4 campus locations, was facing charges of emotional abuse and anger issues. He was being relieved of his position pending further investigation, and the board of elders would determine whether there was any hope for restoration. I mean, our first Sunday looking for a church, we can't get away from it. But of course, it's not only a problem with pastors. I mean, churches of any size can become dysfunctional over the smallest issues of disagreement within a congregation. Or how many pastors have left ministry prematurely because they just can't bear up under the burden of criticism or ingratitude, disrespect, distrust that runs rampant in our culture's way of relating to leaders. I mean, why is there such a pandemic of damaging problems in the church today? And can anything be done to prevent such viral damage? Well, I think so. And that's why I say welcome to How Christ is Formed in God's People, the missing ingredient in making Christ-like disciples. This video series is going to reveal and support my claim that character development is the missing ingredient in the process of Jesus followers becoming more and more like him. And it would go a long way towards solving these problems that I'm talking about. But people don't grow in Christ-likeness without growth in character. And that's a problem. That's the problem, really, in many respects. Growth in character is not understood very well in the church. And it's certainly not happening very well in our culture. There are reasons for both deficiencies. I can't do a lot about the changing the cultural deficiency, but I believe I can help pastors, I can help church leaders and congregations understand how to bring character development back into the church. The kind of character growth that fosters Christ-likeness in our people. So it's my prayer that this simple course will give you fresh insights and determination to make character development a top priority in pastoral leadership and discipleship methods. So let me show you the topics that we're going to be covering in these videos. It's going to be 3 parts. Part 1 is character development is crucial, and I'm going to share with you 3 big reasons why that's the case, why it's crucial. Part 2, several videos are going to have to do with the elements of character development, showing the nature of character traits and how they develop. And then part 3 is to actually move into the character improvement plan, how character development can become part of any person, groups, or church's discipleship process. But before I get started on all of that, I probably need to tell you a little bit about who I am and, what credibility I might have when God's people reflect. All right. Well, I just pressed the wrong button and advanced it rather than just coming back to me. That's a good place for us to quit on that lesson right now. So you see where I'm coming from, and I don't know what it seems like to you, but at the heart of it all is just this imagining and imagining what our lives and our churches would be like if people in our churches had more courage, diligence, generosity, gratitude, honesty, humility, and industry, integrity, perseverance, resourcefulness, respect, and vigor. Those are 12 target character traits. They're all character traits, and they have to be developed in people. And so much of living the Christian life requires those particular traits. Well, where do they come from? How do they happen? How do you develop them? And so that's what this course is going to be all about, is not only exposing people to the importance of those traits and how they develop, but then how to find a way to work those into the way that we go ahead raising Christians to maturity. So that's the course. I hope you'll be interested. Now, that's about it that I want to do today. Next week, what I'll do, since I'll still be I can tell, right now, I'm going to still be working on this feverishly, late hours into the night even, to get this done. But in the next week, I'll just show you how this fits into Fresh Impact, which is the umbrella over all of the stuff that I'm working on here in this last third of my life. But hopefully by mid-December, I'll be back to the normal At the Intersection with Doug Newton podcast. So let me give you a quick forecast about that. I'm going to be talking about topics like artificial intelligence. And I'm not one of those that are just warning like it's Dracula or something. But there are dangers about what that will do to our character. We'll see those things and what to be on guard for, because when conveniences come along in life of any sort, and in fact, remarkable conveniences like AI, we have to pay all the more attention to how that takes away the kinds of things that tend to shape character. So we'll look at that. Pretty soon, probably within the next 2 or 3 podcasts, I want to talk about how we have become, it seems to me, a culture of grudges. I mean, everybody knows that grudges aren't good, but it seems like now we are justifying living with grudges, with a desire for retribution, for payback, for anger and animosity. So in that kind of a culture, what do you do about that to try to shift and, of course, keep yourself from moving in that direction, but also doing something that could contribute at least to your corner of the world? So, I'll be working on that as well. I'm probably going to talk about the whole thing about the government paying back college loans. I'm not going to say one way or another exactly what I think about that from a policy point of view, but I do want to talk about that from a character point of view. So hopefully you'll see that we're going to be dealing with some, frontline cultural kind of issues that you see every day on the news or in whatever news feed that you're getting. And we'll try to see if we can find a good scriptural and character response so that we can engage our world with grace. That's the mission of At the Intersection with Doug Newton. So again, I apologize for this kind of hiatus in the actual normal podcasts. I hope you'll hang in there with me. Pray for Margie and me as we are trying to do all of this work while also having taken on this wonderful church in Evanston, Illinois, to help this church find God's future for them. And also, by the way, if you're watching this now, probably you're already, dialed in. But if you're seeing this on YouTube, for example, I would appreciate so much if you would subscribe. That's going to help. There's so many doors that opens up as we get more and more subscribers. And I promise I'm never going to waste your time. I always have content that you're going to, even today, I hope you got content. I hope you got some principles that you heard even between the lines, some things that will help you live your life better and with more character. So thank you again today for tuning in. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you again next week as I give you a glimpse into the Fresh Impact mission. Bye.